You did my friend Theo Vaughn's podcast,
Right.
and he just did it.
How did he do with it?
He did great. He just talks
Is that
like
why
a
you
normal
called me
human
to
being.
do this? Is that why you called me to do this?
No.
Holy cow.
I was.
He was a nice
once
guy.
they shot you, I was like, he's got to come in here. It's all about timing. It's all about the timing.
So after years of refusing to have Trump on the podcast, repeating the same excuse that he doesn't want to influence the election.
And by the way, I'm not a Trump supporter in any way, shape, or form. I've had the opportunity to have him on my show more than once. I've said no every time. I don't want to help him. I'm not interested in helping him.
The night is still young. We'll see.
If I have him on, the night is still young?
Yeah.
You think I'll have him on?
I think you'll have him on.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you think that? Because you'll have Putin on?
And you're competitive as fuck. No. And I think you had like people like Kanye on, for example, and you had a great conversation with him. I think but
Kanye's an artist. But Kanye doing well or not doing well doesn't change the course of our country.
Yeah, but do you really bear the responsibility of the course of our country based on a conversation?
I think you can revitalize and rehabilitate someone's image in a way that is pretty shocking.
Even though he had Bernie Sanders on while he was running in 2020, Joe was finally forced to cave to popular demand in order to maintain his relevancy. After Theo had Trump on, there were already people speculating that this would force Joe's hand, and the appearance on Flagrant just cemented it. And what do you know, just a few weeks later, he's finally on the show. This begs the question, what was Joe's real motivation for not having Trump on, if he obviously doesn't care about affecting the results of an election? Well, in that same Lex Fridman interview, he cites his uncertainty surrounding the Russia collusion scandal all the way in 2022.
But also, I'm not well-versed enough politically to know all of the corruption that's been alleged and to understand what the whole Russiagate stuff, what's real, like how much of it's clear that there is more than one organization that's involved in communicating with Russia.
This was years after the Mueller investigation ended and mainstream media outlets were running articles like this. Mueller report, Trump cleared of conspiring with Russia. So that also seems like a completely fabricated excuse. The only bit of reasoning that Joe provides for not wanting him on that even makes a little bit of sense is that he didn't believe that Trump would give him a real interview.
You pulled him in?
I don't know if he would genuinely be there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I think he would be putting on a performance.
But given the fact that the other two reasons he provided are blatant excuses, this is probably just another bit of rationalization. It's always been clear that a Trump-Rogan interview would be a fantastic piece of content, no matter how it went. So what was his true motivation, and what changed? Well, I made a video a few months back where I broke down the board of directors over at Spotify, as well as their major shareholders, and found a pattern of pretty vehement anti-Trump sentiment among many of the most powerful people in that organization. Joe already proved his willingness to relinquish over creative control to Spotify after their first deal, when a lot of the most controversial episodes were wiped from all of Rogan's official channels, which you can visually see if you look at how many views his channel lost right after the deal went into effect. One popular example is the Gavin McInnes appearance, which had a clip go viral a few months ago. This shows that Rogan took the $250 million, knowing that it would stifle his content somewhat, but he couldn't refuse the offer. So what's different? Why have his Spotify overlords given him the green light at this moment? Well, his contemporaries started providing the service he used to, and Spotify doesn't want to devalue their investment. But this isn't the entire story, because Rogan could have had Trump on years before he took the Spotify deal in 2019, but for some reason, he still chose not to. This leads me to believe that Rogan was either receiving some form of outside social pressure, especially considering he was living in LA at the time, or he thought that if a contentious interview with Trump went poorly and became argumentative, it might fracture his fanbase. He doesn't really seem like the type of guy who would worry too much about the latter, considering he was fully independent at the time and wasn't shy about throwing his support behind other candidates. But there's a big difference between saying you're voting for another candidate and getting in a heated confrontation with the guy that at least half of your fanbase supports. Especially once the clips start to circulate in the mainstream media and it starts to affect his perception negatively. At the time, he probably thought that he had to present significant pushback in order to keep a portion of the fan base, as well as his LA friends, happy, while also trying desperately to not have the conversation devolve into a full-on fight, which would turn off another portion of his fan base. I genuinely think that he was stumped on how to approach the interview, given the unique form of polarization that Trump creates. This, in combination with his confrontational personality, made it a very tricky situation for Joe at the time. This makes a lot more sense than any other reason Joe's put forth publicly, and takes into account his pre-Spotify stance on the issue, so I'm almost positive this was the reason. He viewed it as too much risk for the reward, and thought he was better off just staying out of it. But now that there's been a widespread re-acceptance of Trump into the new mainstream pop culture, Joe feels like he doesn't have to press him too hard, and he didn't. He saw Theo and Schultz just have a regular conversation with the guy and not alienate their fan bases in any meaningful way, and decided that now was the time. And we got a pretty entertaining podcast out of it.
Some of these women, they're so stupid. Because when Comey got up, and he stupidly, because he's a stupid guy too, he's a stupid son of a bitch. He got up.
He gives us some interesting stories as well. He talks about trying to convince Kim Jong-un to cool it on the whole nuclear weapons production and invest a little bit of his money in some oceanside real estate.
I said, "Little rocket man, you're going to burn in hell." And it was a rough, so rough that people were worried. This is crazy. And then one day I got a call, sort of like a fight. I got a call, and we checked their nuclear stockpile. It is substantial. I mean, I said, "Do you do anything?" I got to know him very well. I got to know him better than anybody. And I said, "Do you ever do anything else? Why don't you go take it easy and relax? Go to the beach. You have beautiful beach, nice beachfront property." You know, kiddingly. I said, "You're always building nuclear. Just relax. You don't have to do it. Let's build some condos on your shoreline. They actually have gorgeous stuff." And he said, "I just have to do it because I need it for my safety," etc. I got to know him very well. We had no problem with him.
We got to hear him talk about experiencing a plane landing on a pitch-black runway in the middle of a war zone.
You've been in many planes where it has the computer sign saying 1,000 feet, goes 1,900, 800. It's a computer voice, but it sounds like, but it's an incredible voice. 700. I say, "Captain, are we okay?" 500, and I'm telling you, there wasn't a light on the runway, nothing. And we're going in. "You okay, Captain? Everything good?" "Yes, sir. No problem. We'll be down in about 1 minute, sir." And I'm telling you, Joe, there's always a light. There's not a little pin. And all of a sudden, psh, and you hear, blah, blah, perfect landing like glass. That's how good. I mean, these guys, between the equipment and it's genius. It's pure. It was so dark, you couldn't see a thing. There was no runway. You wouldn't know where the hell you are. You're in the middle of a desert.
So yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I appreciate you watching the video. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again soon.